Hi, let's talk about obesity, pain, and the healthy way to lose weight. This is Dr. Ruth, the pain doc of Chronic Pain Rescue, medical director, and it's a telehealth practice to partner with you to get you from chronic pain to pain free. We have a special guest today. I'm so excited. She's out of the Tampa Bay area, Dr. Kerry Reller, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Dr. Kerry Reller. I'm a board certified family and obesity medicine doctor in Tampa Bay area in Florida. I have been practicing, I guess, for a few years now. But I originally was an engineer growing up, so this is my second career. So I have a little bit of a unique background. But I'm happy to be here today to talk to you about obesity, and it's a fun topic, I think. So happy to be here.
All right, very good. That's right. You did have that kind of a non-traditional
Mhm.
journey into medicine. I know I didn't ask that I was going to ask this, but how did you switch? Why did you switch?
Why'd I switch? Well, it's funny because I thought as an engineer I was going to be behind a computer screen all the time. And here we are in medicine behind a computer screen all the time. But I just really had intentionally wanted to initially go into like biomedical engineering and build the device and do that kind of thing. But I think working with people and helping them reach their goals and get better or prevent disease was something that I'm more aligned with. So it's more like personal patient interaction is what I was hoping for. So that's why I jump shipped
Okay.
to do medicine instead. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great, great. So our topic today, I think it's really important because so many people with chronic pain also suffer from obesity and vice versa. So, addressing the obesity, I know can help reducing the pain, especially if it's a low back or hip or weight bearing joints. Definitely makes a difference. How do you decide how to approach someone's obesity, or maybe I'm sure there's not one size fit all, not one program or whatever. So how do you make that determination of what way to help someone with their obesity?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of nailed it right there. It's definitely not one size fits all. Everybody has their own unique story of, maybe how they have struggled with their weight and maybe what was the impetus behind it, perhaps. Like maybe it's been their entire life. Maybe they stopped smoking and then they gained weight. Maybe they, had children and never lost the weight after that. So everybody's different and everybody kind of, works differently as well. So one diet, which I hate that word, or nutritional plan may not work well for one person, but it might work well for somebody else. But the biggest thing is seeing, as an individual, what works well for you. So the biggest thing is obesity, is a multifactorial, chronic, relapsing, remitting disease. It comes and goes. It may be in remission, just like another disease, but it can come back. And you always have this, what do they say? The gravitational of your former self is real. Like someone used that quote recently, and I was trying to steal it, but it's a really good point because it's all these thoughts and things that contribute to your lifestyle always can come back. So old habits is basically was what I mean. So typically, if someone comes to me and we're trying to figure out, what's going on with their weight, there's a couple things we do first. And that would be ruling out anything that is could be contributing to it, like another medical comorbidity, or also seeing if there's any medications that could be contributing to it that they're on. So taking, diving into that first can really help to make sure there's not a medical reason that is, a problem or something else that we need to work with. So I may do lab work first, which would be and obviously getting a good history and seeing what has worked well for them or not too. But lab work, we may be ruling out a thyroid problem. A lot of people who have an underactive or even overactive thyroid tend to gain weight, and that's one of the biggest things you absolutely have to rule out. So that's one simple thing. And then there is also obstructive sleep apnea. So that's like people who may have daytime somnolence, who have, maybe it's sometimes people notice because their partner will say they're stopping breathing at night, or they're snoring, or they wake up with morning headaches. So those are some things that are kind of red flags that there's like a sleep apnea problem. So we may, have someone do a sleep study or go to their primary to get a sleep study to rule that out, because it's really hard to lose weight if you have sleep apnea. And unfortunately, the treatment for sleep apnea is losing weight. So it's a vicious circle there, but you got to treat it.
Mm-hmm.
Were you going to say something?
Oh, well, I wasn't, but I will. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, and it was severe at the time, so I couldn't use a dental device. It had to be a CPAP machine, which I
Mm-hmm.
do not like. I've been through several of them, but yeah, when I lost weight, my sleep apnea became mild, which I can talk. I don't mind the dental device. I can do that. So yeah, I have personal experience with that one. What if it's genetic? What if everyone in your family is obese? I mean, do you? I'm sure some people think that, well, it just runs in my family. I can't do anything about it. What about that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, there are true genetic like polymorphisms and mutations that have this real, like a different kind of genetic obesity. And that's something like Prader-Willi syndrome, or just they're rare, right? But there are still medical genetic tests for them if we think that we need to go into that. But as far as, the family history, it's in your gene line, a lot of that has to do with just the tendencies of having that, but also the environment in which you are brought up in. So the biggest thing of starting with that is still ruling out these other things, right? Like thyroid, sleep apnea. I mean, there's more labs to go into, but also, making sure that you are changing the environment, that you're not exposing yourself to all the same kind of foods and things like that. And it's also cultural, right? So I think that certain foods in our culture and certain ways of celebrating things can contribute to the tendency of someone to, put on more weight or throughout their life and things like that. Just for example, I have, a big Cuban background on half of my family, and the other side is like New Orleans. So we've got two totally different patterns
Rich
of
foods.
eating, but both big celebratory backgrounds, right? So New Orleans, you think party all the time, beignets, seafood boils, trout meuniere, crawfish etouffee. Like some of these things are very heavy, rich foods, right? But that's how you celebrate in these cultures. And then on the Hispanic side, you have, black beans and rice and arroz con pollo and all sorts of different things. So, I mean, anybody's cultural background can, help define of whatever they grew up with, right? And some of these things can be good, and some of these things maybe not favorable. But I think the important thing is to do everything. I don't want to use, everything in moderation term, but, to be mindful of what the cultural preferences may be as well, right? And how you celebrate. And I think the problem mostly stems from that we celebrate everything with food, and we are tending to not eat. Tending to eat when we are not physically hungry. And I think that's when it is a big problem. So, and that's just, not, there's nothing to do with specific culture, but growing up in our environment in America, right?
Mm-hmm.
The standard American diet used to be like 3 meals a day and, lights off because there's no more power, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now it's, meal, snack, meal, snack, meal, snack, and snack again. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not something that our brains and bodies were meant to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to adjust to, I think, the world around us, to realize that it's really hard to be healthy living in America, or really anywhere, but right now I think it's hard. You have to go out of your way
Yeah.
to be healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I do. And even here in California, it's supposed to be very health oriented, but yeah, that's you do have to plan it. It doesn't just come that easily, especially even in say in health environments, health centers, the nursing station and stuff like that. There's like donuts and
Mhm. Yeah.
people. It's rarer that somebody brings something healthy to eat, to share. So you definitely, I get that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wasn't gonna go off on that segue, but I mean, there are definitely, things come into our office, for example, like you said, they're bringing things in that don't serve me like well, and I will, say thank you, but I'm not going to probably eat that.
Right.
But not I'm not going to tell them that. So it's another thing of with cultural and maybe the genetic tendency is you were pleasing your mom to eat. They said to finish your plate. Like there's
Mhm,
these
mhm.
things that you learn growing up that make that whole genetic idea or the tendency to carry more weight because of those things that you learn growing up. And those are patterns that preferably should be changed if you can to help you on a weight loss journey.
What if people that have comfort foods that when they're stressed, when they're
Mhm.
upset, when they're depressed, these are the things they go to. How do you help people that use food, especially the wrong foods, you
Mhm.
know, mac and
Yeah.
cheese or whatever? How do you help people when that's their tendency?
Unfortunately, the super highly palatable foods like mac and cheese and things you mentioned, or cakes and goodies are, uh, you know, they're highly palatable. They're engineered to make us want more. They're full of salt, sugar, and fat. So no matter, they're going to make you feel good right away, right? So basically, the person likes them and their comfort food because it gives them a dopamine hit in their brain and they feel, better when they eat it. But it's
Mhm,
only for a short period of time. So
mhm,
any eating other than hunger, I call emotional eating. And what you described, like all those cases, to make you feel better for comfort food, for bored, for whatever it is. If you're not physically hungry, it's emotional eating. And that's the hardest part to break. But the biggest thing is to identify it first, right? So realize, hey, why do I want that? Why am I having that thought when, I'm really not hungry? It could
mhm.
be thirst, right? So first you could go to some water, but it's really just identifying that they're having this need to eat and knowing that they're also not physically hungry.
That's
So first identifying it and then kind of working their way toward hopefully not giving in every time, right? So
right.
usually I say like 5 minutes, you wait and see if you are, having interest of eating that thing, whatever it may be. Let's say it's ice cream after dinner, right? Everybody feels at the end of the day they're trying to relax, they deserve it, or something like that, right? And it's really, you're probably not hungry. You had a full meal, but
Mhm,
you, for some reason, want ice cream because you think it will make you feel better,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
And it's really training them to not always need that dopamine hit or get it somewhere else. Like
Right.
maybe it's reading a good book, maybe it's taking a bubble bath. Like you mentioned earlier about like getting pleasure out of just going in nature, right? So
Mhm,
these are the things that you can get pleasure from. It doesn't always have to be from food. So the
mhm.
first part is definitely recognizing it, and it can take a lot of effort and counseling to try to change that every time. And I don't think anybody's supposed to be perfect. So it's
Mhm.
you're never going to not eat for non-emotional reasons every time, right?
Yeah.
But it's trying to get some of those times down. So sometimes I'll give them like a tool to use, like an urge jar, where hey, if you waited 5 minutes and you didn't still want that food, you can put a little coin in your jar or a bead or something, and
Mhm.
seeing that accumulate over time is actually rewarding in and of itself. So there are certain tools and tricks you can do to try not to do it, but the first thing is really recognizing that you're not physically hungry and you're
Right.
only eating for comfort, and then where else can you get the comfort from
Mhm.
instead,
Mhm.
right?
That's good. That's good. I will apply that. Thank you for that advice.
Yeah,
I know
I
with
do it to my I have to think that way too, right?
yeah.
I still have that mentality of I want something after dinner and to when I sit and watch TV, and
Mhm.
honestly, when I cut that out, you do a lot better.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I reach whatever goals I have better too,
Right.
but it's hard. Yeah,
Right.
and yeah, everybody I'm sure still has that problem, so
Yeah,
it's not
mine
gonna go away.
yeah, mine is when I'm working, doing notes.
Mhm.
I don't know, and I know I'm not hungry. I know I'm not hungry. So yeah, thank you for that. I will try, I will try that. I'll get a jar.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, what would be the first approach? I'm just wondering for someone maybe they feel ashamed or, you know, maybe they've tried different things and nothing has helped. What do you say to
Yeah.
that person?
I think the first approach is, walking in the door somewhere or on telemedicine visit, wherever you feel like that person is really able to help you. I think more and more doctors are getting certified and boarded in obesity medicine and really understanding that it's a true hormonal, disease and it's not your fault. And, it's just, I think there's help out there if you find the right person. And I think that's the first step is walking through the door of someone, that can help you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Do you find, I don't know, it seems like a lot of times when women are older, you know, that's when it's even more difficult. Like older guys, for some reason, they want to lose weight, they lose it. They just do whatever. And we women have this really hard time. Could you explain what that's about? I'm sure they must know why that happens.
Well, it was funny. I was joking around with my husband recently about this, but so I think, well, one, hormones for women, right? And there's the natural tendency to have more weight than men anyway. And I think that we're more emotional beings. And if you're emotionally eating and you're a more emotional being, you're going to be eating more for those reasons than, a guy might. And then, menopausal hormones. So, menopause itself, the hormonal changes doesn't cause the weight gain, but it's the fact that you have decreased muscle mass from menopause. And if you're not counteracting that by keeping up with like resistance training and things like that, then your metabolic rate does go down because you're not tending you don't have the tendency to have as much musculature due to the decrease in estrogen from menopause. So it's not directly related to menopause, but because not having as much muscle, you tend to have a little bit of weight gain in menopause. And it's often seen around the abdomen where that it's actually where the dangerous fat is, that visceral fat around all the organs. And that's what can lead to metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance. And we didn't bring that up earlier, but that is definitely something that we look for on labs because it's really hard to lose weight if you're insulin resistant, but there are ways to get your cells, you know, to listen better, to allow sugar to come into the cell and, be used for fuel if we address insulin resistance earlier on.
Mhm.
So those are definitely things that need to be brought up and can help with the weight loss as well. But as far as age, I mean, I think the biggest thing for longevity is eating enough protein, and that is way more than you probably think you need in a day. And resistance training, so like weight bearing exercises, you want to keep your bones healthy and strong, kind of same reason to not have pain in them, right? You
Mhm.
want to have those muscles, stabilizing your joints so your joints don't have pain. And that not only does, helps with that, but it also, because of you, if you have more muscle, your basal metabolic rate, like at rest, is a little bit higher, and then you end up burning more calories in a day anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
age, I mean, I have plenty of people in their 70s that have worked with me that are still able to lose weight, and some just by lifestyle changes and doing the work, and some may have some assistance with some medications, which is perfectly good as well.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, awesome, great. I I just remembered something because you mentioned the insulin resistance and
Mm.
how you need the resistance exercises to maintain your muscle, keep your metabolism up. And I know also there was a study that insulin resistance responds to resistance exercises. Just doing those resistance exercises is going to help you become more, I guess,
Insulin sensitive.
yeah, insulin
Yeah.
sensitive. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
absolutely. I mean, exercise in general is moving, using those muscles and using the glucose that you're eating to fuel your muscles, right? So the more muscles you have, the more glucose that the muscles can burn, and the more likely that your cells will start being like listening and being more sensitive to them.
Mhm.
So that's
Right.
why exercise is, great for a metabolic standpoint as well, not just cardiovascular, not just mental health, and not
Right.
just bone health too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's really interesting how the things that are good for us are like, they're always talking about a heart healthy diet,
Mhm.
which is good, except that a lot of people say, well, that doesn't apply to me because I don't have a problem with my heart. And I
Oh
wish
yeah.
they would just say healthy diet because the truth is it's healthy for the whole body, regardless of whether you have a heart problem. And those things matter. The exercise, the diet, it matters. Is there any last thing that you'd like to say to the audience? You work locally, right? If people want to see you, they'd have to be in Florida. Is that
That's
correct?
true. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And how would people get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook at Clearwater Family Medicine and Allergy, and Instagram at Clearwater Family Medicine. And then our website is www.cfma.health. Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, you mentioned last remarks. I would just say that, weight is, not your fault. And there might be a root cause that you need to look into, like lab work, or making sure you're not on medications that could be sabotaging you. And there are a lot of chronic pain medicines that do cause weight gain. So you got to be careful there, and, kind of be on board with your provider as well. And then I think, the healthy, balanced diet, and like we were talking about anti-inflammatory diets on a different meeting, I think that is, the mainstay of how to have, limited pain and improve weight as well.
Okay, this has been awesome. There's more. I think there's more, but we're gonna
There's a
wrap
lot more.
around
I could go on forever.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm like the questions going in my head right now. Thank you so much, Dr. Reller, for this. I'm sure the audience appreciated, and I'm hoping whoever needs to does reach out to you because what you're doing is great stuff. One last question.
Yes.
How do people pay? Is it
For
insurance
me,
based or yeah. Mhm.
oh, I try to make a very affordable weight management program. So I try to use insurance for visits and extra health coaching and remote patient monitoring as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah. But I
very
will
good.
take cash, of course. But yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. We had a great session today. This has been really nice. And again, this is Dr. Ruth, the Pain Doc, uh, partnering with you to take you from chronic pain to pain free. Until next time, peace and blessings. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sure.